Hello again, this is Robert Doble with EvictTenantsLA.com. Today I want to talk to you a little bit about the Tenant Protection Act of 2019, also called AB 1482. That means Assembly Bill 1482. It is now codified into law as Civil Code 1947.12. What this is basically is a rent control for the entire state of California. So as a landlord, you need to know, does your property fall under this rent control ordinance, or rather statute, in the entire state? Okay, so usually if you have a single family dwelling, it's not owned by a corporation or LLC, and it's not owned by a investment trust, then most likely your property is exempt from this Rent Control Act, which is probably good news to you as a landlord, right? What you do have to know is you have to give your tenants a notice that Civil Code 1947.12 doesn't apply. Otherwise, your tenant may have an argument that it does apply. This is why it's so important to get an attorney that knows what he's talking about, okay, in this type of law. Again, EvictTenantsLA.com, and come and meet one of our attorneys and we can help you, okay? Now, what does this law do if it actually applies? Okay, it usually applies to buildings that are 15 years or older. It usually applies to multi-dwelling units like apartments, things of that nature. And what it does is it maximizes the amount of rent you can raise per year to a maximum of 10%. What it is, it's 5% plus the CPI, which is a consumer price index, for that particular geographic area. And every area has some, you know, LA, San Francisco, they all have different ones. I think, for example, San Francisco was 8.8% last year. It's a max you could raise it. And again, overall, it says the max is 10%, but every area, city, geographic area is going to be different, okay, in California. Now, what you need to know is there's also other provisions, not just rent control. Also, if you need to evict your tenant, there's two types of evictions. There's just cause. It must be a just cause eviction. What does that mean? That means there's a reason for it, not just you want this tenant out, okay? For example, there's just cause, and then there's just cause no fault, means the tenant is not at fault, and there's just cause at fault. If it's no fault, you have to pay the tenant relocation benefits. What is that? That's usually 3 times the monthly rent to move out, okay? For fault, for example, here's the easy one most landlords will know. Just cause at fault will be, for example, most likely 3-day notice to pay rent or quit, excluding weekends and holidays, like we talked about before. And all these laws you need to know. And again, if it doesn't apply, you need to give your tenant a notice. We can help you at EvictTenantsLA.com. Give your tenant a notice so that if it doesn't apply, you make sure the tenant is aware of that, so they can't use that as a defense that you never notify me this doesn't apply, therefore it does apply. Also, this could actually apply for what's called an ADU. You know, sort of a unit you build in your backyard, your side yard, or attached to your home, something like that. A lot of landlords are doing that now, especially during the housing crisis in California. It could actually apply to an ADU. It could apply if the ADU is 15 years or older. So for example, let's say your ADU is only 14 years old. The next year, it could possibly apply depending on your situation. And you need to come to us at EvictTenantsLA.com and meet with an attorney. We will tell you, we will help you look up all the public records and determine with you if it applies or not, and give your tenant the proper notice. Okay, again, this is a very complicated law, obviously. And this law, again, will not actually apply if there's a local rent control ordinance. For example, RSO of Los Angeles, the Rent Stabilization Ordinance of Los Angeles City. If that applies to your rental unit, then this overall statewide rent control and eviction law will not apply. The stricter local ordinance will apply. And again, I know this is all complicated, but I wanted to bring this up because a lot of landlords aren't aware of this. This is a fairly new law. This law only started January 1st, 2020, right before the pandemic. And it actually, for now, it expires January 1st, 2030, unless the assembly decides to extend the law. And again, I know this is a lot to take in, but if you come to us, we can help walk you through it and make sure your rights are protected, and either it applies or it doesn't apply, give the proper notices, help you do a just cause eviction, fault or no fault, and we will help you through this entire process. Again, visit us at evicttenantsla.com. Thank you again. This is Robert Doble.